ഹലോ വെൽക്കം ടു വിജയശ്രീ ട്യൂട്ടോറിയൽ. ഞാൻ 2018 ബാച്ചിലർ ജോന. ഇന്ന് എടുക്കാൻ പോകുന്ന ടോപ്പിക് റിഫ്ലെക്സ് ആർക്ക്.
So let's start. We'll be learning about spinal reflexes in this session. What is a spinal reflex? It is a stereotyped motor response to a specific stimulus like the stretch of a muscle. They play an important role in the control of posture and movements. What are the components of a reflex arc? To start a reflex, you need to give it a stimulus. Once a stimulus is received, it will go through a series of components, that is, the sensory receptor, afferent neuron, integration center, efferent neuron, effector, and response scene. In the case of spinal reflexes, the integration center is in the spinal cord itself. Now let's talk about the receptors, that is, the proprioceptors. There are two types, muscle spindle or intrafusal muscle fiber and Golgi tendon organ. This is the intrafusal muscle fiber, also known as muscle spindle, and it is surrounded by the extrafusal muscle fiber. The intrafusal muscle fiber is responsible for receiving the sensory stimuli, that is, muscle spindle is a proprioceptor, but the extrafusal muscle fiber or the regular muscle fibers are responsible for contraction of the muscle. They are the contractile units. The extrafusal muscle fiber is in series with the Golgi tendon organ. The muscle spindle consists of two types of fibers, the nuclear bag fiber and nuclear chain fiber. Okay, so this is the structure of a muscle spindle, and we're going to see the afferent and efferent fibers involved with the muscle spindle. So there is group 1A afferent fibers and group 2 afferent fibers. Group 1A afferent fibers arise from both nuclear bag and nuclear chain fibers, but group 2 only arise from nuclear chain fibers. Note that the afferent fibers arise from the central part of the muscle spindle. That is, the central part is sensitive to stretch stimuli. Now, apart from this, there is another group of afferent fibers, that is a group 1B, which arises from the Golgi tendon organ, not from the muscle spindle. Okay, now, the efferent fibers in muscle spindles are the gamma motor fibers. They terminate in both nuclear bag fiber and nuclear chain fiber. They terminate on the peripheral part or the polar ends of the muscle spindle. Apart from this, we have the alpha motor neuron. It is another type of efferent fiber, but they terminate on the extrafusal muscle fibers, not in the muscle spindle. So the alpha motor fibers are responsible for muscle contraction in a reflex arc. Okay, so we'll be studying about these spinal reflexes, and first we'll start with the phasic stretch reflex. In the case of any stretch reflex, you need to give it a stimulus of passive stretching, also called loading of muscle spindle. In the case of phasic stretch reflex, it requires a stimulus of sudden stretch. The muscle spindle will detect the stretch and pass the signal through the group 1A afferent fibers. These fibers will synapse with the alpha motor neuron, that is the efferent fibers. These fibers will stimulate the extrafusal fibers of the homonymous or the agonist muscle, and the response we see is a contraction of the agonist or the homonymous muscle. This is a clear example of a monosynaptic reflex, as we can only see one synapse and no interneurons. What is the function of a phasic stretch reflex? It causes immediate corrections in spinal motor output of day-to-day movements. The most common example of phasic stretch reflex are tendon reflexes, for example, the knee jerk reflex. Tendon reflexes show general excitability of motor neurons. Diagnosis of neurological deficits can be made based on the response of tendon reflex. You see the response of the tendon reflex, whether it is dull or if it's absent or if it's highly exaggerated, and accordingly you can make the diagnosis. However, it is not only the homonymous muscle that is being involved in the stretch reflex. Let us see how. This is an example of the knee jerk reflex. You give a stimulus of sudden stretch by tapping on the knee joint. The muscle spindle in the extensor muscles of the thigh will receive the signal and will pass on the signal via the group 1A afferent fibers. Here you can see that it divides into two branches and terminates on two sets of motor neurons. It activates the homonymous motor neuron, that is, motor neuron supplying the same muscle, that is, extensor muscle. Thus, we can see contraction of the extensors of the thigh. Along with that, another branch is stimulating an inhibitory interneuron known as a Golgi bottle neuron. This will cause inhibition of the alpha motor neuron supplying the antagonist muscle, in this case the flexor muscles of the thigh. So the contraction of the extensor muscle along with the relaxation of the flexor muscle will cause an exaggerated extension of the leg. That is the knee jerk reflex. This is an example of reciprocal innervation. That is, activation of one set of alpha motor neurons, the protagonist muscle, and inhibition of the opposing set or the antagonist muscle. To remember that in a basic stretch reflex, not only is there contraction of the protagonist muscle, there is also relaxation of the antagonist muscle. Okay, so now we're learning about the tonic stretch reflex. It is the same as a phasic stretch reflex. The only difference is that the stimulus required here is sustained stretch, and the afferent fibers involved are group 1A and group 2 afferent fibers. The rest of the reflex circuit is the same as that of phasic stretch reflex. If the function of the phasic stretch reflex is to control rapid corrections in motor output, the function of tonic stretch reflex is to maintain muscle tone and posture. In the standing posture, there is contraction of the thigh extensors, that is the quadriceps. These are also known as anti-gravity muscles. So the knees remain extended because of the contraction of the thigh extensors. But due to the effect of gravity, there is sustained stretch of extensor thigh muscles. Now we know that the sustained stretch is a stimulus for the tonic stretch reflex. So the reflex gets activated and we are able to maintain the standing posture. On prolonged standing, we may feel fatigue. So we usually flex our knee joints to get relief. This provides an additional tonic stretch reflex, which will further add on to the sustained contraction of quadriceps. Inverse stretch reflex. It is the relaxation of the muscle in response to a strong stretch or autogenic inhibition. The Golgi tendon organ monitors the force developed in a muscle. So when it detects excess force which can cause rupture of the muscle, it will send a signal through the group 1B afferent fibers. It will stimulate inhibitory interneuron in the spinal cord. Thus, inhibition of the alpha motor neuron occurs. So the response we see is the relaxation of the agonist or homonymous muscle. This is an example of a disynaptic reflex, as we can see two synapses and an inhibitory interneuron. As I said before, the function of inverse stretch reflex is to prevent rupture of the muscle. In conclusion, the muscle spindle, through the stretch reflex, monitors the length of the muscle fiber and the rate of change of length of the muscle fiber, whereas the Golgi tendon organ, through the inverse stretch reflex, monitor the force generated in the muscle fiber, that is, the force of contraction. So far in the reflex arc, we have only seen the role of alpha motor neurons, but gamma motor neurons also play an important role in the reflex arc. Let us see how. Here we see a muscle consisting of spindle and extrafusal fibers. So here we can see the muscle getting stretched. The muscle spindle detects the stretch and sends a signal to start the stretch reflex arc. Now we know that in the stretch reflex, only alpha motor neurons are activated, causing only contraction of the extrafusal fibers. If this were to happen, the muscle spindle inside would become slack or lax, and in this state, it is not possible for the muscle spindle to get further signal of length changes. That is, once we stretch a muscle and it becomes contracted, if we apply further stretch to that muscle, the spindle will not be able to react to the further stretch. To prevent this from happening, gamma motor neuron ensures that the muscle spindle also contracts along with the extrafusal fibers so that it can still be receptive to length changes. Let us see how. Okay, we know that the central portion of the muscle spindle is sensitive to stretch and the peripheral portion is innervated by gamma motor fibers. Now, where does the gamma motor neuron get its signal from? Descending pathways or supraspinal segments will send a signal to gamma motor neurons, which will stimulate it to cause contraction of the peripheral part of the muscle spindle. Thus, the muscle spindle also contracts, ensuring it is still receptive to further stretch stimuli. Let us consider this as a muscle spindle. The red portion shows the peripheral part of the muscle spindle innervated by gamma motor fibers. The white portion shows the central part of the muscle spindle which is sensitive to stretch. When gamma motor neuron discharge occurs, there is contraction of the peripheral part of the muscle spindle which will cause stretch of the central portion of the muscle spindle. So it still remains receptive to further stretch stimuli. Basically, gamma motor neurons alter sensitivity of muscle spindle to stretch. Genra-6 maneuver can help increase sensitivity by increasing gamma motor discharge. Hypertonia and hypotonia can be caused because of excess or low gamma motor discharge respectively. In case of UMN lesion, there is increased gamma motor discharge. This will cause hyperreactive muscle and hypertonic or spastic muscle. Another important significance is clasp knife phenomenon. This is seen in UMN lesion. When a hypertonic muscle is stretched, first the muscle contracts, but if the stretch is continued, the muscle will relax. How does this happen? Initially, due to the stretch reflex, the muscle will contract, but on further stretch, the inverse stretch reflex is stimulated, so the muscle relaxes. Another important point is about the clonus. It is a regular rhythmic contraction of a muscle subjected to sudden and sustained stretch. An important example we see in clinics is the ankle clonus. Okay, now we're going to move on to the withdrawal reflex, which is a protective reflex. Here the stimulus involved is pain and receptors are nociceptors. Flexor reflex afferents, that is the group 3 and 4 fibers, act as afferent fibers. This is a clear example of a polysynaptic reflex, as there are multiple synapses in the spinal cord. On receiving the pain stimulus, alpha motor neurons of the flexor muscles of the ipsilateral limb are activated, causing flexion of the ipsilateral limb, that is, the limb that receives the pain stimulus. And at the same time, another branch causes inhibition of the alpha motor neurons innervating the extensor muscles of the ipsilateral limb. So totally, flexion of the ipsilateral limb occurs. The pain stimulus also sends a signal to the contralateral limb by means of the commissural neuron. Here we see the opposite action to that of the ipsilateral limb, that is, extensor muscles are contracted and flexor muscles are inhibited of the contralateral limb. So totally, the response we see is flexion of the ipsilateral limb, which is actually a protective movement away from the stimuli, and extension of the contralateral limb, which is done to maintain balance. It's also called Philipson's reflex. If the stimulus remains high and persistent, rapid discharge occurs, leading to a widespread response. In that case, extension of other limb of the same side and flexion of the other limb of the opposite side occurs. So that's all about reflexes. Thank you.